Hi friends, welcome to our next running reunion episode of the Running For Real podcast. This is a series where we are checking back in with previous podcast guests who have been on the show, seeing what they've been up to since they were last on the podcast, and also just reminding us all that even though we see so many snippets and highlights and high moments for people, that everyone is on a journey full of ups and downs, and there are things to smile about in every single day. So I'm excited today to welcome Grayson Murphy back on the show. She is a professional runner for Saucony. She's a 2-time US world champ, and she just has a lot of other things that she gets to offer this world, and we're really lucky that we get to chat with her in this episode. So without any further ado, let's head over and meet Grayson. Thank you to UCAN for sponsoring this episode of Running Reunion for the Running For Real podcast. I am proud and excited to have been working with UCAN since 2012. It is my favorite go-to fuel and source. I have been using it in races for many years, and I was very excited last year when they came out with UCAN Edge. Now, it's not just me who loves UCAN Edge. UCAN Edge was voted by Runner's World as one of the best foods to eat during a run. It has these slower acting carbs that are easier to digest and will keep your blood sugar levels stable. Now, UCAN Edge comes in strawberry, banana, and orange flavors. It's this in this convenient portable pouch that is going to put super starch in your hand. It is what I'm going to be using in all my races upcoming. It has this delicious fruit flavor. It goes down really easy. It's really easy to enjoy, and it's going to mean you have no spikes, no crash. It's also trusted by the pros like Sarah Hall and Emma Bates. Emily Sisson all use UCAN for their races. So thank you again to UCAN for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. You can use code TINAUCAN. That's Tina UCAN at ucan.co to go get yourself 20% off there. That's code Tina UCAN at ucan.co. Grayson, welcome back to the Running For Real podcast. I'm excited to have you here on Running Reunion. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah, this is fun. And you and I actually saw each other, well, I guess it was more than a few months ago now, but we saw each other in November, which was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But for the listeners who may not have been listeners back in May 2020, what would you like to tell them? Who are you and where do your passions lie?
That's a very big question, but I'm a professional runner. I like to say I'm an all-terrain runner because I compete on the track and the road and the trail. And I have passions in sustainability, environmentalism, being a good human in general, and just kind of being balanced in life in general. And outside of running, I enjoy a lot of other things. So I like to think of myself as a lot more than just a runner.
I love the way you introduce that. You obviously mentioned the parts that people would maybe know you for. I can't tell you how much my heart just sang when you mentioned sustainability as the first thing, because that's what I often feel like I say. But like, you don't hear that very often where people say that first, because it's not typically, well, it sounds crazy because it should be the first thing for every single one of us, or at least in my mind, but it's not something you hear often. So that made my heart very happy, and trying to be a good person. I know you are. But yeah, I love the way you just described yourself there. So thank you so much for that. And, you know, I'm sure people have seen you around your accomplishments, but it is something worth noting that you said about an all-terrain runner, because especially in the professional running world, we really don't come across that very much. Especially like being one of those myself, I was so scared of going on the trails when I was running on the roads because I didn't want to injure myself, quote unquote, even though now I realize that would have actually made me more resilient. But yeah, I mean, just before we go on to the regular questions, how for a lot of listeners today who maybe are road athletes or maybe trail athletes, what would you say to encourage them to do a bit of everything, even if that means they think, oh, I'm not going to be it's like kind of jack of all trades. You can still, you know, run well, even if you are kind of spreading yourself out. What would you say?
Yeah, I think that they don't take away from each other. They can complement each other if you're doing it Right. There are ways you could do it where they wouldn't complement each other very well, but I think they all have kind of strengths that they can help you build. And I see that when I'm on the trail and the road, that I'm relying on strengths I built on the opposite terrain coming in handy. So, yeah, I don't think you have to be put in one box, and you don't have to be that specific. And it's kind of back to that whole idea of like that David Epstein book called Range, where the people that generalists tend to do better than specifists. So I think, yeah, that's kind of my attitude towards it, and it's been working out.
Did you know of his book before you started doing more of these things? Was it any influence to you?
No, maybe I think it came out not that long. I think like right when I started.
It was
trail
2019.
running. Yeah, that's the year I started trail running. So I think it came out the same year.
So just the right time to remind you to keep going that path. I love that. Okay, so the next question I always ask everyone, it's been a tumultuous few years for all of us. So how are you really?
Really? Yeah, I think there have been good parts and maybe not bad, but challenging parts. I've been fortunate that my family has been relatively unscathed by COVID. So very grateful for that. And it's just mentally though, I think like everyone, it's hard to kind of go through a pandemic. And I train alone. So that's kind of one thing I've been dealing with lately is trying to find a different training setup. I've kind of just reached the end of my bucket or end of my rope with being able to train alone all the time and be kind of coaching myself. And I feel like I'm wearing too many hats to be my own coach, my own teammate, my own cheerleader all at the same time and try and run fast as well. So that's been a challenge that I've been working on lately. And I think I have found a really exciting new training setup that I'm going to pursue. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. And you mentioned about, that's obviously a challenge, and especially as someone who relies on your running to be your career, to be, a huge part of who you are. That is something to definitely keep in mind. And, I mostly trained alone too, and that was exhausting enough in itself, let alone, like you said, coaching yourself. That's a whole new element as well. So, I'm excited to hear that you are finding something that suits you and fits you well. And then the sustainability piece, just as that is a passion of yours and mine, like that for me is something I just feel so frustrated with every day. And the pandemic has made it worse because it's been pushed again to the back of the pile. So how have you worked through those emotions, as that is a passion of yours?
It's been tough because I'm also getting my master's degree right now in sustainable natural resources. So every day I'm reading lots of studies about climate change and kind of what's wrong. And it's a fun field to be in, but also kind of you have to take a step back every day and kind of forget for a second because otherwise it's hard to keep living. So yeah, it has been hard, and I just try and focus on like, I can't do everything. And so I shouldn't put that pressure on myself because sometimes it feels like all the responsibility is on your one person's shoulders.
For sure.
And that's, not realistic. And that's unfair of one person to carry that burden. So I try and take a step back, but it is difficult because, I think like you, the pandemic made things worse, and you're kind of sitting there watching everything happen, and it feels out of control. So,
I actually, just before we started recording, I read a quote from, I'm going to read this, from Susie Moser. And she wrote this in the book, All We Can Save, which I'm not sure if you've read. Yeah, it's like a collection of writings from various people, various women. And she said, burnt out people aren't equipped to serve a burning planet. So the well-being of our hearts and souls must be reestablished to their rightful place as relevant, essential. And that's so true in this moment. And that's, something I've had to learn the hard way, is that, like you said, you can't do it all. And you also have to take care of yourself, or you're going to get yourself in a really bad place. So thank you for sharing that. What is something that made you smile today?
On my run, a guy, I don't know what he was doing. I was running kind of downtown, and he was carrying around a little like display. Hotels in the Continental Breakfast, they have like little trays, and it has like tea and little snacks on it for breakfast. But he was carrying it around, just walking around the street. And he just walked up to me and was like, "It's a fabulous day." And I was like, it is. It's really pretty outside. I don't know what you're doing, but it looks interesting.
I love it. And so it was just like the simple act of, I guess, connecting with another human, and, the fact that he reminded you it is a beautiful day. And at least if nothing else, we have that. I love that.
The sun is shining. Yeah.
Sure. That's a great one. What has been, so you came on here last May 2020. A lot has happened for you in that time. Maybe share a few high moments for us from that time.
Let's see. The rest of 2020, as we all know, there weren't really any races. But then 2021, in January, I decided I would like to try and go to the Olympic trials for fun. And so that was fun and kind of a wild ride, because I ended up getting a lot closer to making the team than I had kind of set out to do when I started training in January. So that was fun and interesting, and just like a lot of emotions kind of went into that one. And then I transitioned to the trails again during the summer and got to race in Europe for the first time. And the Europe mountain running scene is so different than the US and so much fun and just a different energy. So that was amazing. And I'd been to Europe once, but not like that. So it was really fun too, to just see all the countries and love the train system. That was amazing.
Yeah.
All the food. So it was just a whirlwind Europe tour, and really fun, and got to get a couple wins out of that and some course records, and then set up nice for World Cup this year too.
Yeah. And when is that?
It'll start again. I think I'll start in July. It starts in May or June, but because I'm doing track, I can't switch over quite that
so you
early.
are going to do track again this year?
Yeah.
So that'll be steeplechase?
Yeah, and probably, because I already have the world standard, so that makes it easy and enticing. And then probably 1 5K.
Cool.
1 5K a year is good for me.
Yeah, track 5Ks are intense.
Yeah.
I have to say, I don't miss them. Actually, I don't miss 10Ks. Track 10Ks, not at all. 5Ks aren't as bad, but maybe again someday. Okay, and then what would you like to remind everyone listening to this today?
I think just to kind of do what feels right to you, even if that isn't what other people might think, or kind of looks weird, and be willing to bet on yourself. Is for me, that's kind of where a lot of my successes come from, being courageous enough to bet on myself, even if you don't know if it'll work out or not.
So if someone listening has typically struggled with that, like the fear of what other people think, or just I don't deserve to take that step, or other excuses that may come up, how would you nudge them a little more to be brave, as you said?
I guess I would just say, remember that no matter what happens, like, you're still valuable as a human. So at the end of the day, you can't fail in that I'm not going to be Grayson. I still have that. So that kind of is your fail safe. And then maybe you learn something. Hopefully you learn something, in which case it wasn't a failure because you learned something for next time. So yeah.
Love that growth mindset you've got there. On that note, tell the listeners another thing you have done or, enhanced in the last few years is your journal. Tell them a little bit about that.
That's been such a fun journey and learning experience. Being an entrepreneur is fun but challenging, and there are times when I'm pulling my hair out. But that's been another example too. If you have an idea, just go for it. You never know what could happen, and it's been 4 years now of just a cool connection to the running community and a great way to meet new people and network and share something that is helpful to me with other people, and like they share it back. So that's been really cool. And I would encourage everyone, if you have an idea like that, just try it out. You never know.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So I will put links in the show notes for people to go check that out. Where else can people go find you if they want to follow along in the future?
My username on, I think, all platforms is Racin __ Grayson. So
2 underscores? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. But I think it comes up if you type Grayson Murphy, you come up, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that was 2 underscores. Okay, cool. And you mentioned about your races. What races should people be looking forward to you doing? So you mentioned about the World Cup.
Oh, yeah. So that's July and September. I'll probably start track in April, and then US trials is end of June. And this year they made it really tough for me, and US mountain champs and US VK champs are the 2 weeks following the Eugene trials. So
3 weeks in a row?
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
So that'll be interesting and a quick turnaround. But I think it could be a fun challenge. So look for me there.
That's awesome. No, I'm excited to see how you get on, and people are really definitely breaking the mold now in terms of and you've been one of the examples of this, of seeing what you are capable of, and it doesn't have to be like one race a season, but stacking things a bit. So yeah, we wish you lots of luck. Thank you so much for joining again. And to the listeners, Grayson again is episode 185, but I will put a link in the show notes. Thank you so much, Grayson, for joining me today, and wish you the best of luck with training as you continue.
Thanks, Tina.
Hi, friends. Just a quick message to say a big thank you to the Running for Real team. While I may be the face of Running for Real and the voice behind the podcast, there are a group of people who are working tirelessly to provide everything that runners could need within our community, to make our community stronger, better, and evolve and grow and learn from one another. We are working really hard to make Running for Real the place we believe it can be within our community. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone on our team. That is Victoria, Stacy, Sandy, Sally, Maria, Kelsey, Kat, Jeremy, and Erica. I appreciate each and every one of you and the hard work that you put in. Now let's get back to the show. Small but mighty, Grayson is doing great things in this world, and I'm really excited to see what her future holds for her. And I love the fact that she encourages us to do lots of different variants of running, even if running is the sport that we choose. But she is such a great ambassador for that. So thank you to Grayson for coming on the show. I want to remind you to go to youcan.co and use code TINAYouCan to get yourself 20% off. I will be using those Edge gels in my marathons this month, and I am very excited to go check that out. So go to ucan.co and use code TINAYouCan for 20% off. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you on Friday for a regular Running for Real episode, next Monday for a Together Run, and then on Wednesday we'll have another one of these. See you then.